Alright guys, yes, it's me, Delzinski, and I'm actually joined by SmackTalks. Paul is with me because there was some news last night and I'm still actually recovering from it because I'm kind of in shock, but magically, as if by nothing, Seth Rollins has now lost the Curb Stomp. It has disappeared, it's evaporated, and it's as if it never even happened. And the reason why I got Paul on was because we were discussing this a little bit earlier and I wanted to get his views on what he thought about the Curb Stomp magically disappearing from Seth Rollins' arsenal. Almost as such, it's been reported that the move has kind of been banned and that it's no more. And we did see a new finishing move from Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw. I'm not entirely sure what that move is called. It's almost like a DDT facebuster is the best way to describe it. But it's not quite as impactful or quite as intense as the Curb Stomp. And we're going to discuss just briefly our views on the issue with the Curb Stomp and why maybe WWE took it away. So from my point of view, I still don't get it. I still do not understand in the slightest why they've taken this move away from Seth Rollins. I can only imagine that there's been a complaint or some sort of element where they've got ongoing cases to do with concussions and things like that, and this move's been brought up as a potential issue and maybe led to them reviewing it and removing it. But on the other hand, I think from a pro wrestling perspective, this guy is your world heavyweight champion. He's a big name within the company. And you know, the Curb Stomp is a huge part of his repertoire. And to lose it, you know, this won him the world championship from, Curb Stomping Roman Reigns. He's Curb Stomped Brock Lesnar as well. It just seems kind of wrong. So, Paul, what do you think about this? I mean, what did you feel when you first found it out? Did you think it was true?
I didn't think it was true at all. I thought it was all like some kind of big joke, some rumor that had been started on Twitter, because it's the kind of thing that you would expect to hear, and you would think, yeah, well, that can't be true. Like, there's no way that they're going to drop a move, especially from a guy that's your champion, like Seth Rollins. And it's not like it's a really dangerous move. I mean, as long as the person taking it is aware that it's coming, it's something that they should be able to protect themselves from.
Well, that's the bit that I'm not quite getting my head around at the moment, because obviously this move isn't in the WWE, but there's a lot more controversial moves out there. Like if you look at AJ Styles with the Styles Clash, I mean, he's broke people's necks, but from an industry point of view, that's the type of move you could imagine being removed and banned, because the word banned is floating around a lot. Dave Meltzer says that potentially it isn't banned, but WWE have just tried to not draw a huge amount of attention to it by just then slipping in this new finisher that Rollins has got. But I mean, it's pretty hard not to notice the Curb Stomp has disappeared. But there's more moves that are dangerous out there. I mean, for example, you know, the Tombstone Pile Driver, that can go wrong to a degree. You've got a lot of reliance on the person doing the move. DDTs can be dangerous. I mean, these are all moves that affect the head area. And the Curb Stomp, like you say, Paul, you know, well, the way I've watched it and the way that I think it goes down is Rollins doesn't put too much pressure. He just comes off the rope. You know, the foot kind of touches the head, and then it's really down to the superstar to sell the impact. And with that being the case, then I see not a huge problem here. So is that your take on it? Do you think when you look at the move and how it's controlled and how you work with someone to do it, are you kind of questioning why this move particular has been removed? Or is it actually WWE's fault by promoting things like a Curb Stomp on, I think it was the Breeze Blocks, Curb Stomps to end careers, because they almost sold it as that, like they did with the punt? Could it be WWE who have really stitched up Seth Rollins here and cost him his move?
It could be, but I think it's the case that it comes out of nowhere. So if this was taking place, say, a couple of weeks after that incident with the cinder block, where there was I think it was called the blackout at the time, where you was put through the cinder block, then if that was shown and then people complained about it, I could see why they would take it away from them then. But because it's just something that we've seen as a regular move now. It's weird why they would kind of drop it from his arsenal and ban it when it's a pretty basic move. It's not something that someone's going to have to take the time to learn how they're actually going to take the move. Where Styles Clash, anyone that's going up against, say, AJ Styles would have to know how to handle that move, how they're going to take it, and obviously not tuck the head and things like that.
Yep.
But with a curb stomp, it's a simple move to take. There's nothing complicated about it. So you would expect someone, especially at the level of the WWE, to be able to get their hands there and just stop themselves from like fully committing to smashing the head off the mat. So it's kind of puzzling in that sense.
And it's all come out of nowhere. Like it's all of a sudden bang, and the move's been dropped back or disappeared. There's no announcement. There's no major announcement. And we were talking about in terms of storyline, how does this really affect the fan? Because I was thinking that if they were going to remove this move, the curb stomp, then why didn't they put it into the storyline with Randy Orton and say, possibly the stipulation for this match is, okay, Randy Orton can't use the RKO in the match, but if Randy Orton wins this match in the future, Seth Rollins can never use the curb stomp again. And that could be a stipulation. That could be the reason why it disappears. Give Seth Rollins to come up with a brand new move and debut it and showcase it, as opposed to what they've kind of done, which is he showcased the move and everybody's not keen on it and everyone's still moaning and not happy and with good reason about where has the curb stomp gone. So I think you had a bit of an idea as well how they could have done it much more better than what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think kind of what you said there, really. If you do that and you add that stipulation in there, then it kind of builds to it. So at the moment, the scenario that we've got is, to someone that hasn't read the dirt sheets and know that the move has been banned, then you sort of question, why did he just use that new move instead of the blackout or the curb stomp? Where if you put it into a stipulation, then the match against Orton, if he was to lose that match and have that move banned, then you're kind of watching then the next week to think, well, he's got that move banned. What's he going to come up with next? And another way to do it, which I mentioned to you earlier, was if you have a match with Orton on the pay-per-view, which is coming up at Extreme Rules, then you can have him hit the curb stomp on Orton. Orton kicks out, and Rollins can't believe it, and then he's got to try and take it to the next level and find something that can put Orton away. And then that would be where you would bring in a new finisher. It would work, and then he could go ahead using that move, and it kind of explains why he's then switched to that new move, because it gets the job done.
Yeah, and it leads on perfectly, and it opens up the storyline again, and then it's introduced the move, and it's almost such it could take over. Whereas, I mean, well, you can just check from social media the amount of people that I've had so far just kind of say, well, what was this in aid of? Why has this happened? I mean, there must be something behind the scenes that WWE have had an issue with where they've wanted to remove this move, but it's just the way it's been done. I mean, would one more curb stomp to eliminate it or remove it, or would one more event to get rid of it really have that much of an impact? Did it have to be just kind of cut from his moveset? And I've heard rumours, I haven't actually seen it yet, but I believe that it's been edited out, the curb stomp has been edited out of all of Seth Rollins' entrance. You don't see it at all anymore. And the word floating around is banned, but when you start saying that the move has disappeared completely in terms of all the video packages and they're not going to refer to it, not going to mention it, then that technically is banned. It's just they're not wanting to admit that it is. And it's a bit like the punt as well, because the punt's kind of did its thing and it disappeared like this. And I just find it all a bit strange. And it leads me on to this new finishing move. What do we think of it, and why is he not using the Seth Walker instead?
Well, that's one thing that I think everyone's going to be asking. Why is he not just gone with the Seth Walker or the Skywalker? Then it's just, with it being a new move, it's something completely different. And maybe if he'd gone back to something that he'd used before, maybe something that hadn't been shown on TV in the WWE, and something that he'd used like sort of previously in NXT or FCW, or even in Ring of Honor when he was wrestling as Tyler Black. And I mean, if you have a look at the moves that he used to use previously, he's got a couple of options in there because he had God's Last Gift, so which is sort of a small package driver. So that would have been a good one to go with. He had the Phoenix Splash, which I think is Corkscrew 450. So that again, that would be an amazing move to have as a finisher. I mean, it might be something that's a bit similar to what Neville's using. So maybe that could be a reason why they haven't gone with that. But the one that he's gone with, I think it's a lot similar to what Dean Ambrose is using. It's essentially the same move, but instead of the way that Ambrose falls onto his back, Rollins goes onto his front. So it's kind of like an inverted DDT. It's maybe like sort of Christian's inverted DDT, but instead of the opponent facing up, they're facing down. And I just think DDTs is something that we see so much in the WWE. There's lots of people that have them as finishers. I mean, Cameron's got a DDT as a finisher. You've got Ambrose. And even in the match that he had this week when he rolled out this new finisher, Ziggler hit an amazing looking DDT. And I think he's one of the people that hits it the best. And he hasn't won the match on a DDT, yet Rollins hits one that doesn't look as good. It looks a lot weaker, and he wins the match.
Yeah, this is the other thing as well with talking about moves as well. When they changed Dean Ambrose's move, because they changed the Dirty Ds, didn't they? I think they changed that on the basis that it looked quite similar to something that Adam Rose was using as well. So they do take that into account, the sort of clash of moves when they're picking things. But this, to me, is very different to something like your Dean Ambrose, where they kind of saw a something similar in moves. This is just almost like just pulling it away because they feel it's not right. And like you said, there are so many moves that he had in his arsenal. And I mentioned this as an example. It's a bit like Cesaro. Cesaro, when he came to the WWE, he came with a lot of unique moves. He had the UFO. I've talked about this on commentaries before. The UFO is a pretty awesome move. He sort of puts them on his shoulder and spins, and then they sort of, float off like a UFO. But it's different, and it was eye-catching, and it's probably something that brought Cesaro to the game. Steps up to WWE, all of a sudden, that move is cut. That move is gone, and then he's got to come up with something else. And he's got the neutralizer. That was one of his moves before. But other than that, really, Cesaro's arsenal has been like chopped in half. And it's the same with Seth Rollins, somebody that came up to the roster that had so many awesome moves. And yeah, he's still awesome. He still puts on a hell of a job. But, is it not watering down these great superstars? I mean, you look out to the other promotions, you look out to Ring of Honor, you look out to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you look out to other indie events where these guys get to put on these moves, and then you look at WWE and they're kind of lucking out because of the PG-ness that they've become.
Yeah, it is. It's totally a case of that. I mean, if this was a wrestler that wasn't your World Heavyweight Champion, someone that was on the mid-card or the lower tier, then I could understand someone like that, or someone that's just coming up to the main roster, and I'm saying, look, we don't want you doing anything too flashy. We want you kind of tone it back. But when this is your world champion, then you should be going to him and saying, well, look, we're going to have to take away the curb stomp, but what move would you like to do? And I'm sure if it was up to Rollins, then he would want to do something that looks a lot more spectacular than what he's sort of been stuck with.
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me a little bit though of the RKO, because I wasn't that keen on the RKO when Randy Orton first got it. I was like, oh, it's just a modified diamond cutter, It was like, that was immediately, the comparison was just like, nah, But over time, I've got used to it, and obviously Randy worked very hard to make it this unique move where he hits it out of nowhere. He's managed to get the look and the feel of it. I mean, there are even T-shirts being printed in the style of him hitting the RKO. It's just become like that phenomenon, and you kind of think that maybe that Rollins over time can perfect this move and make it look into something a bit special. But I guess the trouble is the RKO has that element of uniqueness because you can hit it out of nowhere. This move, it's not really that sort of style, is it? You've got to do. I think he does he do a double underhook?
He does a single underhook.
Single underhook, and then he drops them and he falls flat. And that's not really. You're not going to be able to hook that straight away out and just nail it. it's got to have a sequence. And it doesn't. I don't personally think it works in a sequence of him doing the power bomb into the corner, them dropping, falling forward, and then him hitting it. It's no way near as good as the curb stomp.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You want something that not only does it look good, but something that you can kind of not see coming, so that it just keeps everyone on edge. That could happen at any point. I mean, something like a stunner where you can just like sort of reverse move, flip them around, kick them, and then hit the stunner. Then that's something that can just come in place in seconds. Where this new move, then like you say, you do have to sort of get them down, get them with the underhook, and then go into the move from there. So it's not something that's just going to be able to simply transition into. It's something that you're going to have to set up.
Yeah, and I think my trouble is as well, because I've been to like a few different wrestling events recently. I went to the ICW event and it was all like no holds barred. You know, they were still using steel chairs to the head at this event. I mean, yeah, okay, they do give concussions and stuff, but me getting to see that aspect of what we used to see back in the days of ECW, it just makes me feel so disappointed of how underwhelming. And when things like this happen, I just think, oh, you really, where's that element of freedom for the superstar? Where's that? I know you've got to be on the side of caution. I totally respect that. I totally understand it's about safety first. But like we've said, looking at the move, it doesn't look as dangerous as what it could be, unless somebody's seriously kicked up a fuss and complained about it. That can be one of the only reasons. Or I think you mentioned it earlier, Paul, that it's been maybe being used outside of the ring. Like, please do not try this at home. But I still, like you say, it's the champion. This is the move that he has been, bred to bring up. It's his move before he came into the WWE. He's kept it with him. He's got to the top with it. He's the champ. And now you stripped him of it. And that just, to me, feels wrong. And I don't know. I don't think anybody feels happy about this decision. And I'd be very interested to know how Seth Rollins feels. What did he say when he was told he couldn't use it anymore? If they did tell him that. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to get his take on it. I mean, I don't know, could it be something where it's a move that looks more devastating than it is? So maybe like a casual viewer might see it, or like a parent, and think, that's dangerous. I don't want my son like trying to copy that.
Well, it does look, yeah. I mean, it looks kind of devastating when you see it, but then so does a super kick. I mean,
it does. Well, that's another thing I could really sort of point out. Yeah, if it's a case of if a move goes wrong, then this could give someone a concussion. It's the same thing with other moves like a super kick, where if that connects with someone badly, then that's going to do them some like bad damage.
Bret Hart Goldberg.
Yeah, but it could be a case that Rollins mightn't be the only person to have to change a move because of this. We could see maybe it's a case that the WWE have sort of had complaints and they've looked at the roster, looked at the move sets of people and thought, right, well, which moves is it that could cause concussions? Because we've had a few lately. Bryan's just had one. And maybe they've looked at the roster and the moves that people are using and thought, well, if we took out these certain moves, then maybe we might have less concussions going forward. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any other superstars and divas on the roster that have to change moves because of this.
That is pretty worrying if that is the case, if something like that did happen, because, again, could be massively damaging to the freedom of, putting on good matches and things that have been established over time. That's kind of worrying to think. Now you mention it, to be honest. I hope it's not, but I think as well, the thing to note is, okay, we're looking at head moves here, but, I'll give you a great example of a move that really can do damage if you do it X amount of times. The German suplex. The German suplex to the back of the neck constantly. When he did it with Rollins, Rollins landed awkwardly quite a few times. Lesnar's pretty rough in the ring. And you look at moves like that and you're thinking, that looks like it does 10 times more damage than the way the curb stomp is worked. I mean, I was thinking about that as well. I was thinking, Lesnar throws people all over the place with those suplexes. They will take more of a toll getting hit with, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, of them than it will a curb stomp where you go up and you go down.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes me think that, I don't know, WWE have had either something slapped on them that they've got to do it, or again, going way too far on the side of caution. But I mean, ultimately as well, like we've said, the finisher is not what we've all expected from someone like Seth. So will we see it tweaked? Will we see it enhanced over the next few weeks? We'll probably have to wait and see. But what's your overall view of this at the moment? Do you think that this is a big downer? Do you think this is a showstopper? Do you think this is not a big deal? What is your overall view of the move disappearing?
I would say it's disappointing, but it doesn't have to be, because it's disappointing to see take away that move when it is such a good move that we can see hit sort of at any point when someone's on the mat. But it doesn't have to be disappointing if they want to bring in the right move to replace it.
Yeah, and I guess that's it. It's finding the right move, and because it looks like it's been rushed, the one currently is not the one at the moment. So yeah, guys, I mean, it was just a quick chat, and I think me and Paul both have quite good views on, or quite strong views in terms of what we thought about this. So I want to get you guys involved. Let us know by the comment section below what you think of, first of all, Seth Rollins losing this move, why he's lost this move, why do you think he's lost it, and then I would like to know from you guys as well what you think of this new finisher, and if you're not happy with that new finisher, then potentially tell us what move from his Tyler Black days or from his current Seth Rollins days, what move would you like to see? Would it be, the Seth Walker or the Skywalker? Would it be some of his old style moves? I want to get your views on this because it's a very interesting subject. We don't know for sure if it's banned, but it just seems very, very likely that this has been removed from his arsenal on the basis that it was kind of leaked that he wasn't going to do the move anymore, and then all of a sudden he rocks up on Raw and does this finish which no one's ever seen before. So kind of sways towards it. I mean, Paul, have you got any last views on this at all?
Not really. I think it's just a case of we'll have to wait and see what he does over time. I mean, if it's something that was just sort of dropped on him yesterday, he wouldn't have had the time to sort of really decide on a move that he wants to use going forward. So maybe the one that we're seeing is just one that he would use in that match, and then when we see him at Extreme Rules, I think that's when we'll see which move he's sort of going with going forward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, we're just going to have to give it some time, and hopefully it goes for the better than the worse for Seth. So, yeah, guys, get involved by the comment section below. Let us know your views on Seth Rollins seemingly losing the Curb Stomp. Good or bad? All that's left to be said from me and Paul. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Catch you later.
I knew he was going to do that one. This is Delzinski signing out.
Hey, this is Olympic hero Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist, 14-time world heavyweight champion. And if you're a wrestling gamer, I want you to go to Delzinski.com, DELZINSKI.com, because it's the best place for wrestling and gaming content.